crisis. We're talking about Venezuela once again. Systemic important things. They removed the one factor called monetary awareness. Hey there, hope all is well. Back at you again with some RTD news updates. And I wanted to stream a little earlier than normal just because I'm going through the news and I wanted to get out some important stories. But yeah, there's going to be more to talk about later on today. Anyway, hope everyone's doing well. My name is Mike, the host of RTD News, and looking forward to connecting and finding out what's going on. And so I have about 5 or 6 different subject matter here, but most importantly, it's this visual aid that I put up behind me, as you guys can see here. And so we have the inflation map that's given to us by trading tradingeconomics.com, as well as the economist cover, rising of the phoenix, or the burning of our fiat currencies. And as we move forward into the remainder of this year, it becomes even that much more challenging to hide the debasement or destruction of fiat currencies. And it's disguised in the actual numbers that's given to us in the inflation rates that governments are trying to cover up, even though they're extremely understated. I think it's a lot we can learn from what's happening in other countries. And therefore, I got a couple stories here, all just highlighting more and more as to how this visual aid here, this map behind me, the more it heats up, the more currency destruction we will witness. And of course, us being in the U.S. right now have an advantage in the short term just because the dollar will continue to strengthen, therefore further destabilizing the economic situations in other nations, but buying us time here in the U.S. So we're going to talk about that and a variety of other things. But before I do that, let me do a little maintenance on my side. It won't be long, as always. Just want to check in, share my 2 cents on things, and go from there. But if you happen to be new to the channel, welcome. If you happen to come across this video by somehow the recommendations or suggested video category, definitely click that subscribe button as well as the notification bell. We'd love to have you connect with us later on for an RT Live Talk. We get a chance to call and let your voice be heard. And then speaking of which, let me cut off some signs here on my side. And also, if you have not, I want to encourage you to connect with RTD on some of the social platforms just to stay plugged in. So just a way to make sure you're always tuned in. And before I move further, let me just make sure I do some maintenance on my side as well. Let me get to this page here if I can. All right, here we go. And also, for those that are new to the channel, I want to make sure you are plugged in. I have all the resources for the channel, more alternative locations to connect with me, and also want to make sure you're encouraged to understand the importance of what we're facing right now in the destruction of fiat currencies. But then again, that puts you in a much better position to take some of those fiat notes and redeem them, in my opinion, for something real and tangible. And so here we have the Bullion Max opportunity here for those that might not have taken advantage of it yet. It's one per household while supplies last. So I will continue to remind everybody to take advantage of this assortment pack here. It will definitely help you in the days ahead, in my opinion, as far as preserving and protecting yourself financially speaking. But also connect with RTD Locals, post articles throughout the day on there as well. So make sure you connect. And it's the best place to connect in case we're disconnected here on YouTube. So, and also, if you want to donate and support the channel, all help is appreciated. Consider any donation whatsoever. Link is below in this link here. And also all the blogs, as well as the testing your dollar IQ, has never been more important, because the average person, the financially illiterate, rather, financial literacy, now that's becoming mainstream, more people are understanding the importance of understanding how to handle their finances. But then again, how can you really appreciate and take care of your finances if you don't know what money is? And this IQ quiz definitely can help you with that. So, and I got reports here. And of course, de-dollarization is the end result of everything we're experiencing as the world transitions away from the Federal Reserve note and its system. So more information there if you guys are interested. All right, so let me just jump right in. So I put together this visual aid right here on the screen. If I can get it up here, give me 1 second. There we go. So I put together this visual aid here, which is what is behind me, just because I've been using this image in reference to the economist cover, the Phoenix, for quite some time now, just because it was given to us over 30 years ago, telling us what we should expect around this time frame. And here it is right now, and it's showing up with the visual aid behind it, which happens to be the inflation map. And the premise is, the more this map behind this Phoenix, the the more things heat up in reference to the inflation numbers that's given to us, even though they're massively understated, the more the economic conditions will continue to deteriorate. So here we have the Trading Economics website here, and I was browsing the news, just looking up some key buzzwords, trying to stay up to date on what's going on from the macro picture, and I just couldn't help myself. Wanted to bring some articles to you sooner. But as you guys can see here, this map here is extremely red. But then again, there's so much more room in reference to the countries that you guys see on the screen here. And let me zoom in some just a little bit, make it easier if I can for you guys to see. Maybe it might be too big. Give me 1 second here. I apologize for this. But as you guys can see here, we have a variety of countries that are extremely red right now, signifying double-digit, and some of those countries has triple-digit inflation numbers. And so as I was scrolling through here, I like to browse through the news and see what's going on. And so right here, we see Sudan, 148% inflation. We got Argentina, 64%. We have Ethiopia, 34%. We have Zimbabwe, 256%. We have Russia at 15.9%. All these other countries here, all throughout the Middle East, all throughout Europe. And of course, the G7 nations predominantly are still pink. And here in the U.S., we have 9.1%. And just recently out of the UK, there's 13% being floated out by the central bank itself. So reason I mention all this, just because we were told where we will be at. Here we are right now. No surprise to anybody. So hopefully you can appreciate the time that you have to continue to prepare and take advantage of the opportunities of being able to protect yourself. And of course, getting real world resources is the best way, the things you need ahead of time. And you guys know from a preparatory standpoint what I'm referring to. But let's get into some headlines real quick. So I came across some headlines here, and this plays into what we were told well before now. And this is relatively about a week ago. But for those that are believing that things are being brought down in an orderly fashion, there's nothing orderly about a greater depression or Great Depression. And of course, we have a couple alternative economists, Peter Schiff in particular, talking about we're already in a depression. It's just not showing up the way that it did over close to 100 years ago. But it says Donald Trump warns U.S. economy could reach levels of a Great Depression. And that's just something to keep on your radar, just because, as I mentioned, the more this map heats up, it'll become extremely red on this side here. And of course, the last place is more than likely the U.S. due to the reserve status. Okay, some headlines real quick. Some things that caught my attention I wanted to bring to your attention. Here's a headline: Cost of Living Crisis 2022, how to cope with the rise in prices. And so a part of my research on my end is I tend to look for key buzzwords, and I actually wrote some of them down to share with you, just so it will give you an opportunity to do research for yourself. But we're going to hear more and more about the cost of living crises, which is happening in every country, because it's a direct correlation to the inflation rate that they're giving us, which ultimately means the currency in that particular country buys less. So therefore, the cost of goods go up, nominally speaking. So those are all interconnected. And so here's some buzzwords I put together just to give you something to research if you're interested. I put cost of living crises, recession is something we're going to hear more about, inflation, currency crisis, debt, protests. You look up the word protests, you'll see a lot more countries that are out in the street doing things that to express their anger, unemployment, and layoffs. So let me see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 terms there will become more and more prevalent as we move forward, just because of the conditions we're in. Debt is imploding and there's no way of servicing it. And countries, to try to remain operational, they're just simply creating more currency, which ultimately trickles down into the streets. Anyway, so here's an interesting article here if you guys want to read it. But the cost of living crisis and how to cope with it. And this is from the UK, and that's what I wanted to touch on first. So here is a article headline that caught my attention as well. It says, Britain expects recession to last all of 2023. And so here we have the central bank in the UK, which happens to be the most forthright and upfront and blunt with what they're forecasting, unlike the FOMC and the Federal Reserve on this side, they tend to sugarcoat things and downplay things. Of course, we've had, I guess the Treasury Secretary, the President, and the Chairman of the Federal Reserve coming out and saying that the true indicators we're seeing are not recessionary, because they need to paint the picture that things are stable or not as bad as they really are. So they're lying to us outright. But in the UK, they don't mind telling the truth, just because at this current moment, they can't really hide it. And so just to give you an idea what's going on over there, it says, Bank of England's Monetary Committee announced today that the UK was heading for a recession that will last 5 quarters. And this is where things get comical, because how can they determine it'll last 5 quarters, in a total of 15 months? You should never, in my opinion, trust these same people who were responsible for this. Central banking and the debt Ponzi scheme nature of things is the reason we're experiencing what we're experiencing. So they're saying the recession will only last 15 months. Now, we know expect a lot worse. It says the committee was set interest rates in the UK. They voted 8-1 in favor of raising them to 1.25% to 1.75%, the highest single rise in 27 years. So everybody's hiking or tightening into very dry and bland monetary conditions. And so it will only get worse. And then here's another headline here. Bank of England hikes interest rates and warns UK to enter recession with inflation to pass 13% as it happened. And so economic conditions in the UK extremely, extremely dire. And of course, in every other developed nation, not to say the least. But anyway, so just a number here, 13.1%. Consumer price inflation is now set to hit 13% per year once the energy price cap is lifted late in October. And so here we have central bankers out front and honest telling you what's happening, even though the numbers are still lowball. There's still some lowball figures. And for those that are just coming in, I started off by talking about how we're going to see this inflation map, which is extremely understated, as I was saying here, because even in the UK, it says 9.4 as of now, US 9.1, Argentina 64%, and thus like. So I have a couple articles touching on a couple of these countries here, just to show you economic conditions for the people, for Main Street within those countries there. But the more red we see on this map here, that means the more or the less purchasing power the consumer will have with their currencies, therefore forcing them to run to alternatives, which we're going to see in a minute. Anyway, keep this party going. Here is another one that I think will also impact the global markets, because it says China's Belt and Road grapples with mounting debt crisis impacting Central Asia, Pakistan, and beyond. So this is a very lengthy article here, but I can sum it up for you. Basically saying that the Belt and Road Initiative, which is China's version of their next world order, linking China all the way to for the most part to the edge of Europe as the next world structure, is experiencing a lot of issues due to the fact that all the nations along that pathway are experiencing severe debt crises. And so we have, let me see, a total of, I think, 40. Let me get this number right. So far, it says the Belt and Road has helped make China the world's largest bilateral lender and seen its loans totaling $932 billion since it was established 8 years ago. And it says, I think there's a total of, it says, let me give you 1 second. It says one study of Chinese lending published in April shows the current scale of the debt crisis, with its research indicating 60% of Chinese loans are given to countries in financial distress. And so third, let me see, I think it was a total of 40 or so countries, if I'm not mistaken. I got to figure out the number. But anyway, all the countries that China lent money to for development for the Belt and Road Initiative right now is imploding. On top of the loans, all those nations have out with the IMF. And so there's no way of paying that back. So China's taking a haircut, and the IMF eventually will take a haircut, because ultimately you can't get what's not available. And so another article here shining more light on this, and I actually had an actual number that I lost track of, but we'll make do. So here's another article. Debt bomb risk. More than 40 nations are at risk of default, and that's a problem for all of us. And so these 40 nations are also interlinked with the China Belt and Road Initiative, as well as the IMF. So as of right now, nations are scrambling to try to just make the interest payments on those debts. At the same time, all they're doing is further creating currency, their own local currencies, and funnel it to their own people, and that is causing the currency crises, which is leading to protests and civil unrest and all the things that's happening in all those emerging markets. And so it's just another interesting article here, but it had more details as to some of the names of the countries, and I meant to bookmark it, but I did not. But it's all the Pakistan, Azerbaijan, Kazakhstan, all those nations there. So anyway, if you're interested, you can feel free to find out more information for yourself there. And then here is something that is also very important, because Argentina, I follow them heavily, as well as Chile, just because I'm familiar with those nations. It says Argentina names their third economy minister in a month amid crisis. So imagine, this position is extremely hard to fill because there's no viable solution to solving the economic woes of this country. And so they're on a third economy minister. And what brought my attention to this subject is that Argentina vows the end of what I'll say here is currency creation to battle 60% inflation. So once again, this is another one of those nations here. It says 64% on the international inflation map, but we're being told that it's at 60%. Take of it what you may. It doesn't matter. But the new economy minister is vowing to basically stop printing. And so like that would be the ideal thing to do. But because they're so far down the rabbit hole, to stop printing would bring on immediate pain. And pain is ultimately the end destination for all of this, just because it's all debt in nature with nothing behind it. And ultimately, all these fiat currencies are simply claims on real world items. And as the real world items become somewhat scarce or being withheld back, there's going to be the need for a new way to price those real world items. And it will not be fiat currencies, as they're all being debased and completely destroyed. And so in this article, it just talks about how the plan is to stop printing. But then again, they have yet to come up with any type of solution on what they're going to do, because all they know is further printing. And let me grab that for you real quick. It says Argentina Central Bank has already printed the equivalent of 4.8 billion in pesos so far this year to finance government spending, meaning it only had 1 billion left before hitting the ceiling for the IMF's little program. And so one of the things is, after meeting with the IMF on Wednesday, Argentina's new economy minister committed to stop using money issuance to fund the government. It says this is a bold promise, but the minister didn't lay out a credible path to get there. He says, without a detailed plan for cutting the deficit, we're skeptical of any of these pledges. So once again, he's talking about stopping printing, but then again, there's nothing to back that up. So ultimately, he will probably end up having to print. So the reason I wanted to stream and just share lights on this is because we can expect, moving forward before the end of this year, this map behind me to continue to get extremely red, just because the numbers will continue to tick up until there's some type of event. But then again, everything we're experiencing is strategically being done. None of this is by accident. Some people are saying that the Federal Reserve is incompetent. They don't know what they're doing. They know exactly what they're doing. They told us 30 plus years ago where we will be at. And as you guys can see at the very top, it says, get ready for a world currency. That's what they want. And how it plays out, nobody knows, because they're not God. They're just trying to basically save their own tails and usher in as much pain as possible so that they can all come together with the suggestion or solution, rather, and it will be completely opposite of what we've experienced in the form of paper issuance. It will be the issuance of some new currency, and of course, it might be CBDCs. It might be gold and silver back in circulation in certain pockets. It will be, cryptocurrencies over here. Give it to whatever. So who knows exactly how this thing plays out? But we know where we're at and where things are heading. They told us that fiat currencies will be burning, and they are burning right now because it shows up right here on the screen. And so now that you're fully in tune and aware, of course, people in alternative media have been talking about it for quite some time now. This has never been a greater opportunity to take advantage of the time that you have remaining with whatever purchasing power you have in the currency that's in your possession. And so the Federal Reserve and all the central banks, they're fighting against deflation. Debt, if it's not exponentially created, becomes deflationary because bubbles burst. Loans are not met. Businesses go out of business. It contracts on itself. So they're literally fighting deflation, and they're doing it on purpose because they're not stimulating right now. So they literally they cut off the spigot, and they're literally letting things collapse on itself so that they can usher in the pain they need to get to this reset. So not only are the headlines, just continually telling about us recession, the goal is to reset things. So this recession will eventually turn into a full out obvious depression so that they can usher in a reset. That is the actual game plan that the central bankers are using. They know that, and that's what they're doing. So anyway, wanted to check in for a quick minute, share my 2 cents, and go from there. But it's going to be more stories worth touching on. But then again, it just gives you a heads up as to what's happening all around you. And so you can realize the time we're in and, of course, take advantage of opportunities as they present themselves. So there will be an abundance of opportunities out here. Just a matter of coming up with a strategy that works for you and then executing. And, of course, as you guys can see here, I want to end off with just talking about the current metal price action. Once again, it's $20, some change, and $17.90, regardless of the actual nominal price. Where we're heading, we won't be pricing gold and silver in dollar terms when all this stuff blows through. So don't worry about whatever price it is now. Just think about having the possession of it, because weight is money in this next world order, just because it will be commodity backed. And of course, the primary commodity, according to what China and Russia have been accumulating, happens to be gold. And so silver, its little brother, will follow along. So anyway, get your weight up, get your calories up, get your prayer game up, get your ammo up, get everything up that you need in accordance to the revelation and wisdom that you have, and then make it work for you. So anyway, back at it again later on today. Be blessed, be safe. Just want to check in for a quick minute, share my 2 cents on things. Feel free to leave a comment if you catch this late, or just hold your thoughts till we stream later on tonight and we can talk then further. So other than that, once again, there's more stories to talk about. I just wanted to scan the surface and let you know what was on my radar. And I got a couple articles here I'll leave out, but we'll touch on it later. But anyway, be blessed, be safe. See you guys later.
The next recession.
Recession will be a recession.
We're going to hit a recession.
The date of the next recession.
A U.S.-only recession typically lasts 8 to 10 months.
A crash is coming. Now, whether it's 6 months from now, 12 months, 36 months, no one knows.
If you have the right plan to set up, you can make a lot of money from this.